Hi, Coach. How you doing? Thanks for doing this. If I could, can you just assess your defensive line performance yesterday?
I thought it was extremely impactful. Obviously, when you can hold a rusher as explosive as Jacobs to what we were able to do, that always gives you a chance to have the kind of outcome that we had. And the guys got their hands up and really, did a good job of creating a takeaway. And obviously, AJ Epinesa with the third down stop, same thing, getting his hand up. And then the rush at the right before halftime, we were able to get the ball back to the offense, and they capitalized on that, and what that led to start the second half. So just overall, very impactful. Uh, Not perfect. There's some things that we will continue to improve upon, but really pleased with how they fought.
And then, secondly, you have been around Sean now a long time, both here in Buffalo and obviously in Carolina as well. What has, in your mind, stood out the most about what has made him so successful in this role as Bills coach?
Extremely thorough in his preparation. He leaves no stone unturned. His communication is really precise to the staff and to the players. We go after the boulders. We try and make sure that we filter all of the things that we observe from the opponent down to consumable portions, and we construct a game plan from that. So those are the things with him that I've noticed that I look forward to, and that I think that really gives us a chance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric, John Warren with the AP. This every time Matt Milano seems to make a play, does he cease to amaze you in some ways? Does he ever cease to amaze you?
No, Matt is just a very, very aware, very technically sound, explosive, just opportunistic type player. And I've had the good fortune of observing that now for going into 4 seasons. And no, it doesn't surprise me. And I certainly don't take it for granted what he's able to do in real time.
What is it about him? I mean, this is a guy who was, really discounted when it came to entering the draft. People didn't know where he was going to fit. And yet what he's done with the type of frame he has and the ability that he showed, what is it about him?
Great instincts, and his preparation is outstanding. Matt takes advantage of practice. He takes advantage of the meetings. He flies around in practice and tries to put himself in position there first, so that the instincts will respond for him during a ball game. And so, watching the way he runs around in practice, watching and knowing how he utilizes the meetings, and how his preparation really, how that really impacts what he's able to do on Sunday. Those are the things that really stand out for me.
And when you watch tape of that interception, it looked, from my vantage point, because I was looking directly at it, it looked like he had Josh Jacobs lined up immediately and really was anticipating that pass. So it's almost as if he knew exactly what he was going to do before the pass was even released. What was your perspective on that?
Well, Josh is the type of guy that really fuels that offense. I mean, so they're going to try and get him the football, and then rightfully so, either by throwing it to him, checking it down to him, or by handing the ball off to him. And so Matt just did a great job of executing his coverage detail, getting set up, and obviously we're going to have our antenna up for the featured performers in the offense.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, good afternoon, Coach George Radney, Challenger Community News. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Thank you, George.
Great. Question for you, Greg. What do you would say was the difference in Greg Russo's play from last year? The head coach asked him that yesterday after the game. He mentioned that he's a lot nastier this year. It was his main response. What do you think is also attributing to his inspired play?
Well, Greg has got a lot of confidence. He's got a lot of experiences that he can draw upon. And he's learning some of the small details of how to put himself in the best possible position as a point of attack run defender and as a pass rusher. And as you know, Greg is he's just a really good person, but he's a competitor on the football field. I mean, his demeanor is what it needs to be to win. He'll do anything to win, and in any circumstance. So yeah, he's just drawn upon a lot of experiences, a lot of success, and a lot of things that he's been able to learn from.
Also, do you think the Bills had a slight advantage with Greg Van Roten being on the offensive line of the Raiders since he was in training camp with the Bills? Guys had a chance to probably maybe pick up some tendencies from the training camp?
Well, we were familiar with GVR, certainly. But at the end of the day, you have to go out and win. And there's a reason why he's been able to go from, I think, 3 or 4 different teams and earn a starting role on the offensive line, going back to Carolina, the New York Jets here, and now with the Raiders. I mean, he's a starting caliber NFL offensive lineman. So we had some familiarity with Greg, but at the end of the day, you have to go out and you have to create an advantage between you and the opponent.
Excellent. Last but not least, how do you rate Terrel Bernard's play? He seemed to be a lot more calmer, more relaxed at the start of this game yesterday.
Well, every game, theoretically speaking, things hopefully they continue to slow down for Terrel. He's still learning, but he has demonstrated that he clearly belongs in the role that he's in. And I anticipate that he'll continue to get better and the game will continue to slow down, to use a well-worn cliche, and he'll just get better and better.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Coach, and good luck this coming Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Eric, one more on Matt Milano's interception. I was wondering, with a play like that, when a lot of it you mentioned is his instincts, him just like being able to make an instinctual play, when you show that to the rest of guys, like what can you take for them to learn from it? Like what are some specific things when it's such a, I don't know, an interesting play like that?
Well, it really pulls in. It really pulls into the entire group all of the things that you have to do to put yourself in that position. Sometimes our defensive linemen are involved in coverage and they can learn from that. And when anybody in the back seven is kind of at the point of attack or they're the receiver that they're guarding is being targeted of their zone, you can learn from the fundamentals, all the details of how Matt was in position, eyes were where they were supposed to be, and he got a nice break. And it also, the defensive line coming out of a 7-man protection, we're really starting to close in on Garoppolo, and that was also a factor in that play. So it all has to work together.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Coach. Always thanks for your time. A couple weeks in a row, a couple of screen passes get loose on you guys on defense. And I know you want to rush up the field and be a pass rushing team, but that's always a tough balance. What goes into that balance of knowing your rush lanes and being aggressive, but also kind of sniffing that out to make sure that you kind of can be in the right position that doesn't go against you?
You have to start with tremendous situational awareness. If we create a negative play, they have to do something to get themselves back on track, as we like to call that. And screens and draw plays are usually some of the things that coaches will pull from in terms of the options that they look at. And also, some of it's feel, some of it's formation recognition, some of it has to do with just what you're feeling inside, and also who the targets are. But that is one of the things that teams will do when you are an attacking defensive front and attacking defense overall against us, and that's just to throw those screen passes, and just the situational awareness and feel have to kind of be there.
Can you take us into what it's like on the sidelines after a long drive to start the game? You give up a couple of plays you don't want to give up, but it's a long game. You got to make a couple adjustments. I think sometimes fans don't, know the communication that's happening from a series to series situation after something like that.
Well, our mental toughness is it always has to be a featured trait for us on defense. And that did not surprise me. You don't want to give up a score on the opening drive. When the guys came to the sideline, starting with the communication that they had to one another, hey, let's go back out and let's do what we do, and let's find a way to shift momentum and to create some positive energy for our defense and our team. And we know that we have to, whether that would have been a great play, You have to play the next one. That's something that's constantly talked about in my room and on the defense as a whole. You have to play the next play, and our guys really went out and personified that.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Hey, Eric, just a couple questions. I was curious, Ed kind of made a statement with that first play, getting that tackle for loss to start the game. We've talked a lot about him, I know, but like, is there anything in these past couple weeks with just how he's been playing overall that stood out to you? And obviously, again, starting the game that way was quite a statement for the defensive line.
It was a great play, and it went right into just the overall philosophy. We want to attack the line of scrimmage and come off the ball and try and penetrate and create disruption and obviously negative plays. And Ed is just really focused on that. You know, he has tremendous quickness. When the ball is snapped, he has a chance to really, to just really get into his gap responsibility or the person who's assigned to him. He's just doing a really good job with that, just attacking and also understanding how to apply that get off to a key stimulus. So he's really feeling that, and I expect him to just continue to get better.
And I know we talked about the run defense some already, but is there anything like improvements from last week to yesterday that really stood out to you in terms of the run defense? Or was it just anything that like you guys specifically went over during the week that you saw pay off yesterday?
Well, we just tried to make sure that philosophically and just schematically who we are, that we put forth our absolute best effort. We are a single gap control defense. We don't have a two gap element in our defense, so it's pretty defined. And, one of the things that we talked about, as we were warming up is just make sure you own the real estate that you're responsible for through the call. And the guys really did a great job with that, not only up front on the defensive line, but at the linebacker level, the corner level, and the safety level. It was an 11-man operation that allowed us to get the kind of production we did against the run game yesterday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Eric, Shaq Lawson mentioned yesterday that he thinks that you guys have the chance to be a great against the run this year. What goes into some of the minute details that can get you there rather than kind of fluctuating between sometimes great, sometimes good, sometimes iffy like you were last year? Sure.
It first starts with the fundamentals of each position group, and that's alignment, assignment, eyes, and believe it or not, even at this level, just making sure that you have balance in your stands, whether you're down like we are most of the time or you are in a 2-point stands. You just have to start with those basic core fundamentals and make sure those things represent the absolute highest that you can and most consistent that you can make them. And then we have to have just great coordination between the call and the run concept that's being presented to us, make sure we know how to address it, and make sure there's great communication. And then we just stay on the attack. It's not going to ever be perfect, but if you start with that and then you apply great effort to that kind of mix of what I just mentioned, you have a chance to do some nice things, to be consistent with that.
A lot of the guys thought that a couple of the big runs in week one were due to lack of fundamentals on those plays. How much was that the coaches kind of getting on them about it? How much of it was those two plays just kind of rubbing them the wrong way a little bit for a week?
Well, like I mentioned before, those things are uncharacteristic of who we are as a defense. We take tremendous pride in stopping the run. We talk all the time about, making an offense one-dimensional. We have to do that. So we spend a lot of time on run fits, on all of those details. And so when we don't get the result that we want, when we have an explosive or chunk run, the guys are going to take it personal, and they're going to challenge themselves to really do what we need to do collectively to get that turned around in our favor.